What would you do if the doctors had already given up? If the machines were the only thing keeping someone you love in the world, and every specialist in the building had quietly, gently told you to prepare yourself? What if the thing that changed everything wasn't a new medicine, a surgery, or a miracle drug? What if it was two 8-week-old German Shepherd puppies who weren't supposed to be there at all? This is the true story of Marcus Webb, a Navy SEAL who came home from his third deployment in a condition nobody expected to survive, and the two tiny, stubborn, rule-breaking animals who refused to let him go. Marcus Webb had spent 16 years serving his country. He was the kind of man you'd describe as unbreakable, not because he never felt fear, but because he learned to carry it so well that nobody else could see the weight. He was 39 years old, 6'2", with hands that had held rifles, and also held his daughter's hand on her first day of kindergarten. He coached Little League on weekends. He made his wife Diane's coffee exactly the way she liked it, without ever being asked. He was the kind of person who filled a room just by walking into it. Then came the accident. Not enemy fire, not a combat mission. A vehicle collision during a training exercise, devastating traumatic brain injury. By the time the medevac team got him stable, Marcus had slipped into a deep coma. The ICU at Bethesda Naval Medical Center became his new world. Machines breathed for him. Numbers on screens reported the faint heartbeat of a life that had once been so loud, so alive. Diane drove there every single day. Their daughter, 9-year-old Lily, drew pictures and taped them to the wall beside his bed. Crayon sunsets, stick figure family portraits. A drawing of their two dogs at home with the words, "Daddy, come back," written in unsteady, hopeful letters. The doctors were kind. They were honest. And after 6 weeks, they used a word that no family ever wants to hear: unlikely. It was Diane's younger brother, a man named Joel, who made what might be the most beautifully reckless decision in this whole story. Joel was the family's designated optimist. He was also, in Diane's words, the person most likely to do something that makes complete sense only after it works. When their family dog, a retired German Shepherd named Ranger, had a litter the previous spring, 2 puppies, a male and a female, had not yet been placed in homes. Joel had been fostering them for weeks, watching them tumble over each other, wrestle with shoelaces, and fall asleep in a pile of their own floppy ears. He had an idea that even he knew was impossible. He called the hospital. He spoke to the charge nurse, then the floor supervisor, then the attending physician. He got turned down 3 times in 2 days, but Joe had grown up watching Marcus never accept the first no. So he kept going. He contacted the hospital's patient liaison. He wrote a formal letter citing research on animal-assisted therapy and its documented effects on comatose patients, specifically studies showing that familiar sensory stimuli, particularly touch and scent, had produced neurological responses in patients who hadn't responded to anything else. The 4th person he spoke to was Dr. Amara Osei, the neurologist overseeing Marcus's care. She was thorough, skeptical, and brilliant. She read every study Joe sent her. She sat with the data for 2 days. And then, in a move that surprised even her own colleagues, she said yes under strict conditions. One short supervised visit, documented carefully, with full consent from the family. What she said to Diane was quiet and simple. "We have tried everything medicine can currently offer. I'm not promising anything, but I believe in not closing doors." The morning of the visit, Lily woke up before her alarm. She put on the sweater Marcus had given her for her birthday, yellow with little embroidered stars. She didn't say much in the car. She just held the small canvas bag in her lap that she packed herself a photograph of their family on vacation at Lake Tahoe, one of Marcus's old dog tags, and a playlist she made on her mom's phone of all the songs her dad used to play on. Sunday mornings, Joe brought the puppies in a soft carrier. They were all paws and curiosity, one with a darker mask across her face, the other with ears that still hadn't fully decided which direction to point. Joe had named them Storm and Scout, The room was quiet except for the rhythm of Marcus's ventilator. The lights were low. Diane stood near the window, arms crossed tight against her chest. As if she were holding herself together from the outside, Dr. Osei was present, along with a nurse named Patricia, who had been caring for Marcus since day one. Patricia had printed out each one of Lily's crayon drawings and kept them in a folder. She had never told the family that. She just thought someone should. Joel set Storm and Scout on the bed beside Marcus, gently, carefully, right next to his left hand. For a moment, nothing happened. Storm sniffed the IV line with enormous suspicion. Scout turned in a small circle and lay down against Marcus's forearm as if she had always slept there. The room held its breath, and then something happened that no one expected. Marcus's fingers moved. It was small, barely perceptible. But Patricia saw it. She stepped forward without a word and looked at the monitor. Dr. Osei was already there. Scout had started licking Marcus's hand. Small, insistent, completely unbothered by tubes or machines or the silence of a room full of frightened people. She was just doing what puppies do, seeking warmth, offering it. And Marcus's hand curled slowly around her. Diane made a sound that wasn't quite a word. Lily stood completely still, both hands over her mouth, eyes wide and shining. Marcus. Diane was at his side now, her voice low and steady, like she was afraid to startle the moment. Marcus, we're here. Lily's here. Come back to us. His eyelids fluttered. The monitors began to register changes that Dr. Osei would later describe in her case notes as unexpectedly significant. Heart rate more regular. Slight increase in purposeful movement. Brainwave activity shifting. Over the next 90 minutes, Marcus Webb, the man the numbers said was unlikely to return, opened his eyes. Asterisk recovery was not instantaneous. Let's be clear about that, because the truth of this story is not a fairy tale. It is something more honest and more powerful than that. Marcus spent another 4 months in rehabilitation. He relearned words and then sentences. He relearned how to walk with a cane, then without one. There were hard days and setbacks and mornings when the progress felt invisible. But he came back. Storm and Scout were officially adopted by the Webb family during Marcus's rehabilitation. Dr. Osei advocated personally for them to be registered as therapeutic support animals so they could continue visiting during his recovery. Patricia framed one of Lily's crayon drawings and hung it at the nurse's station, where it stayed long after Marcus was discharged. When Marcus finally walked out of that hospital, he had a cane in one hand and Scout's leash in the other. Storm walked beside Lily, tail going like a propeller. Diane kept her hand on his arm the whole way to the car, as if she couldn't quite believe he was solid and real and present. At home that evening, Marcus sat in his backyard with a cup of coffee he couldn't quite taste yet due to the recovery, and watched the 2 dogs run circles around Lily in the fading light. He said very little. He didn't need to. Later, when a journalist asked him what he remembered about that day in the hospital room, Marcus paused for a long moment. Then he said, "I remember warmth. And then I remember not wanting to leave it." Here's what I think about when I tell this story. We live in a world that puts enormous faith in certainty, in data, in protocols, in the careful management of hope so that it doesn't grow too large and break us. When it doesn't survive. And those things matter. Dr. Osei's caution mattered. The medicine mattered. The months of expert care mattered enormously. But so did Joe's stubborn refusal to accept the third no. So did Lily's crayon drawings on a wall. So did a nurse who kept a folder of pictures because she thought someone should. So did 2 puppies who knew nothing about prognosis, who had never heard the word unlikely, and who simply did what love does. They showed up. They made contact. And they refused to let go. Sometimes what reaches a person in the unreachable dark isn't something clinical or calculated. Sometimes it is something small, warm, and completely unconditional. The science has a name for it now. Researchers call it affective bridging. The idea that deep emotional or sensory memory can sometimes create pathways back when cognitive ones are closed. The puppies weren't magic. They were familiar. They were safe. They were alive in a way that machines, for all their precision, cannot replicate, but I think there is something else, something beyond what any study can fully capture. And it is this: love, when it refuses to quit, has a way of finding the door that medicine couldn't find on its own. Marcus Webb knows that now. Joel knows it. And somewhere in a house with a well-chewed couch and two very spoiled German shepherds, so does Lily Dot if this story moved you. If it reminded you of someone you love, or a moment when hope felt like the most radical act available, please share it. Leave a comment below telling me about a time when something small changed everything for you. Asterisk. Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more true stories of the human spirit doing what it does best, holding on, reaching through, and finding its way home. I'll see you in the next one.